Well, hello, everyone. So nice to see everyone here. Uh, I hope all your children are safe and somewhere else. We're going to be talking about being at home during this pandemic. There's just one other thing I just want to clarify. I'm going to be talking for about 30 to 40 minutes. And during that time, I'm going to have everybody muted. When we finish, we're going to leave about 15, 20 minutes for not only questions and answers, but some discussion, some dialogue, some what's going on with your life. Let's hear what problems you're running into. Let's hear what strategies are working for you. So we're going to have that share time at the end. Now, if you have a question, I know from experience, you have a question, and then when it's time for Q&A at the end, what happens to that question? So what I'm going to ask you to do is, when you have a question, put it in the chat. You see the chat on the bottom of your screen? Now you can go to your chat. If you click on chat, you're going to see message to everyone. Go ahead and put the message in for everyone. And then Jen is going to collect them. And at the end, when we have Q&A, we can get back to them. And any other questions you have. Now everybody can see that?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so this is parenting during the pandemic. Okay, so what is it that we know about this COVID-19 pandemic? First of all, we know that it was unexpected. Now, somebody, somewhere, may have known it was coming, but I didn't know it was coming, and I'm sure you didn't know it was coming, and even more than that, your kids did not know it was coming. It was unexpected. It was novel. By novel, what is meant is a new, unprecedented, never seen before. Similar viruses, many times, many places, but not this one. Not this one that we were unprepared for and that we have no protection against. It's unpredictable. There's no certainty about where this virus is going to go. I mean, just the fact that we're now discovering that it's having an impact on young children that we thought were safe from this virus is telling. Not only that, but the virus may be able to mutate itself and cause even more problems that we're not anticipating right now. So we have ideas, we have thoughts, we have projections, we have the best scientific knowledge saying it could go here, it could go there, it could be over, but we don't have the facts. And I believe in going with the facts and the numbers. So it's unpredictable, yep, and it's life-altering. Who ever thought that people in this country would be sheltering in their homes with stores closed, with schools closed, with me not being able to go to Marshall's anymore, with people not being able to go on play dates with their kids? It's life-altering in ways that we could not anticipate. It's indefinite. Sorry to say, we're not sure when this is going to end or in what form it's going to end and to what degree it's going to end. We're not sure of how it's going to evolve itself with or without mutations. We're not sure if and when we're ever going to return to normal. And I know that sounds terrible. Are we going to return to normal? Are we not going to return to normal? Well, I think what we need to think about is we're going to return to a new normal. And rather than saying, oh no, let us think this new normal might be better, just might, than the old normal. So this is anxiety provoking, this COVID-19 pandemic. Anybody not dealing with a little bit of anxiety? I don't think so. I think we're all experiencing anxiety. Not necessarily all the time, but little stabs of anxiety here and there because of all the reasons that we just mentioned. So it is scary. This pandemic is scary for us as adults. Imagine how much more scary it is for our kids. So we have two enemies that we're dealing with, and I'm not the first that thought of this. We have the first enemy, which is the COVID-19 itself. What is it going to do? Am I going to catch it? Is anyone I know going to catch it? Is it going to be harmful? Are we going to survive it? Are we going to come out with any lingering after effects? Are we going to be fine? So that's the COVID-19. The anxiety about it is, how am I going to get back to work? Am I going to have enough money? Financial anxiety, food insecurity is going around a lot. Uh, so there's anxiety about our lives being impacted by this COVID-19 and how this will play out in the end. So let's think about you are in the home with your kid. You are the model. Your child is going to take your response to this pandemic, this sheltering in place, this um, life changing situation. It's going to take your response and it's going to model after you. Some things, now children always model after you, so that's nothing new. The new thing is that we're suffering in ways that we weren't suffering before. We're experiencing our own anxieties, our own uncertainties in ways that we were not experiencing it before. And this anxiety has a way of spilling out. So we want to be mindful. What is it that we are sharing with our kids? What is it that I have to find another adult to talk to about this? What is it that I should not be sharing with my child? Again, age appropriate. What is right for my child? What can my child understand without being frightened? So focus. What are we going to do to help them feel safe? This is what we need to focus on, not frightening them, not giving them all the information that they probably can't handle. But how do we help them to feel safe? How do we help them to believe that they can depend on you? We can reassure. We cannot lie. We can't lie to children. Children, the younger, the more they have a built-in lie meter. They know when you're not telling the truth. So I encourage you, be honest with your children. There are things that you don't tell them, and you can tell them, I'm sorry, I can't talk about that right now because that's a grown-up thing. That's for adults to talk about. But I can tell you this and give them something you can tell them about. Don't ever feel constrained to say, my sweetest child, I love you and I want to do everything for you. But that's something that daddy and I, or grandma and I, or me and my friends talk about. That's not for you to hear. Okay? Because this is the truth. And there's nothing new to this. There's always been things that you cannot discuss with your children, regardless of how much they prompt you. There are always limits and boundaries as to what you can say to them and what you cannot say to them. So it's okay to say that you don't know. And it's okay to say that you're not sure of something. I don't know if you've ever thought about the greeting cards. You know, did you ever get a Hallmark or whatever greeting card? Let's just say for Mother's Day. It could be for Father's Day. It could be something you bought for someone else. But it's the Hallmark card, which is what I favor. And it's the one that says, let's just take Mother's. Thank you for being my mom. You have been the greatest mom ever. You have always known what to say. You have always been there for me. You have always guided me with perfect guidance. Hey, that's not real. That is a Hallmark, idealistic version of what a parent could or might be. It's not who we are. We are not ideal parents. We are not perfect parents, nor should you be. You should be try to be. Is there somebody coming in? Okay. Let's mute everybody. Okay. Sounds happy. Sounds like somebody I'd like to talk to, but we're going to mute you. So it's okay not to know everything. It's okay not to be the perfect parent. In fact, at no time are you supposed to try to be a perfect parent, because then you're telling your child that you have to be perfect too. And that's not a good thing. We can go into that some other time. But the image that I like to give you is that of the gardener parent, not the Hallmark parent, the gardener parent. You're there with your child, helping your child to grow, fertilizing, watering, and even pruning at times. Because there are times we have to prune our children. We call it discipline, we call it teaching, we call it training, a lot of things. But we are the gardener parents, and sometimes our fingernails get filled with things. And knees on our floor with them. Be the gardener parent. Forget about being that Hallmark parent. You're not expected to know everything. Tolerate uncertainty. Now, this is a tough one. How do we tolerate uncertainty? And more importantly, how do we get our children to tolerate uncertainty? we need to do this. We need to say it's okay not to know. It's okay to be a little uncomfortable about not knowing. And we live within that discomfort. We can live and help our children to live within that uncertainty. Because what does that lead to? It leads to resilience. And resilience is something we all want, not only for our kids, but for ourselves as well. Resilience is the ability to bounce back. You're knocked down, bad things happen, and you get up and you start again. You recover from adversity. That is resilience. What better skill, what better life strategy could there be to help our children develop? And we are given this time of corona, this time of uncertainty, during which we can help them and ourselves develop resiliency, which is the faith in yourself to be able to recover. Okay, so let's see what else we have. All these notes. So we want to go to what can we do? What can we do? I feel like a broken record. Routines, always routines. In fact, anybody in early childhood has repeated that mantra: routines, consistency, structure. What does a child need? Routines, consistency, structure. What is the best thing for a young child? Routines, consistency, structure. And what is the problem with this? The problem with this is that, as I said before, we're not perfect parents. We can't do routines all the time. We can't always be consistent. And we can't always have that structure that children need, because we are human. So what do? We do the best we can. We provide as much routine as we can. We provide as much structure as we can. And we provide as much consistency as we can. And when we can't, we tell the child, normally this would be your bedtime, but we're playing this game and you're having so much fun today. So today I'm going to let you stay up a little later so we can finish this great game that we're playing. You comment on it. You don't let it go unrecognized. So play together. What else can you do? You can play together. Now, I'm sure you've all played together with your children. Oh, revisit old ways of playing. Discover new ways of playing. Things you haven't done in a while. Games you haven't played in a while. When was the last time you made tents in your living room and played camping out in your living room, or had an indoor picnic? So many things you can do together. And the museum is posting a lot of these exciting new ways you can play together with your child on the website. Be sure to check them out now and in time coming. But let's talk a little about arts and crafts, because it has been my experience that most things we do with our child that we consider playing are arts and crafts. Now, there's nothing wrong with arts and crafts, but let's not confuse ourselves into what they are not, because they are not really child-directed. I mean, when you're doing an arts and crafts project with a child, who's doing most of the work? You or the child? When you're doing an arts and crafts project with a child, is it child-directed or is it adult-directed? More often than not, it's adult-directed. And most importantly, are you just entertaining your child with a little project you're doing together for a moment, when you could instead be teaching them ways to entertain themselves, which is a life skill? Entertaining your child is a fun activity, and I encourage you to do it. And doing arts and crafts is a fun activity. You have your project, you hang it on the refrigerator or wherever, it's a fun activity. But also important, and probably a lot more important, is enabling your child to develop the internal resources to entertain himself or herself. And that's a lifetime skill. And how do we do this? Usually we do this through repetition. Repetition is how children gain mastery. Children, young children especially, they are trying to master themselves. Who am I? What can I do? How many times can I say, mommy, 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 before mommy answers? How many times can I say no? How many times can mommy say no and me ignore her before I get what I want? So children are learning through repetition all the time. They seek mastery of themselves. As adults, not so much. I'm not saying never, but as adults, we don't so much seek mastery of ourselves as we seek mastery of our environment. We're redecorating. We're, doing our nails. We are changing curtains. We are doing things to alter and improve our environment. Children are into improving themselves. And one of the ways they do this is through repetition. Repetition until they've got it. Whatever they're doing, they know it, and they can teach it to somebody else. So give information. Oh, connect with families. Let's go through that. There's so many ways of connecting with families. You can do the Zoom like we're doing here. You can do the Skype, FaceTime. And what I'd like to propose is that you try real, old school snail mail. You know, writing an envelope, writing a letter, or drawing a picture, folding it up, putting it in an envelope, writing an address, putting a stamp on it, and leaving it for your postal person to pick up. Or dropping it off the mail at the post office if you do that. Why is this interesting? Because kids don't know about this. Kids are growing up in an era of instant gratification. They instantly get everything they want. They do FaceTime and instantly have someone there. They do, oh my God, my mind's going back, messaging, and they instantly have a message there. Let's learn to wait a little more. Let's wait. Let's learn to anticipate a little more. Try the snail mail. Okay, what else? Give information. You can give information that's honest, accurate, and again, always age appropriate. What is COVID-19? How do you get it? What would happen if you got it? What would happen if I got it? What would happen if I got it? And if you have people who already have it, talk about how they are taking care of themselves. Talk about if they're in a hospital, there are doctors and nurses taking good care of them. We want to be honest. We want to be as optimistic as possible, but we also want to be sincere with our children. Media, screen time, monitor screen time. Okay, everybody's going to be doing this more than they've ever had in the past, and we have to loosen up our guidelines on screen time because it's what kids have nowadays. So we have to be more generous and expand our limits of what they can and cannot do, what they can do on screen time. But be careful of the news because news is being repeated and repeated and repeated. And for a young child, it doesn't seem like new news. It doesn't seem like repetition of old news as much as it feels like new news. This is happening again. It happened yesterday, it's happening again. So be careful, monitor what your children are actually seeing. And last one, we want to help our child develop some control to deal with those fears, to deal with those anxiety, to deal with those feelings of uncertainty. How can we give them some control over what's happening? Well, we can give them strategies to be safe. We can talk about hand washing. But not only can we talk about hand washing, we can play with hand washing. Not just wash your hands, but fill that sink or fill a basin with soapy water and toys and let them wash their hands while they're washing their toys. Talk about distancing, safe distancing. Practice safe distancing. Say, I'm going to give you a pretend hug, a virtual hug, because we're 6 feet apart. Let's walk around and still stay 6 feet apart. Play with it. Don't frighten them about it. Play with it, but still be honest. Get your masks. Talk about how we have to wear masks so that we protect others and we are protected from catching any bit of this nasty old virus that we don't want to catch. Draw on your mask. Let your child draw a picture on a mask. Let it be his or her own mask that he or she can practice wearing in the house with you. Let them practice asking you questions. You practice answering their questions. So these are some controls. What we want to do is we want to help the child feel less powerless, less helpless, and less dependent upon you. So we want to give the child things that he or she, that they can do on their own. Do we have any comments? Okay, we're going to keep healing. Is that the next one? No, well, I knew it was speaking with children. Speaking with children. All right, speaking with children. We all talk to our kids, right? We all are very busy talking with our kids. How is it that we talk to them though? We usually don't talk with children. We usually talk at children. And more than that, we're always telling them what to do. Wash your hands, pick up your shoes, hang up your coat, finish your dinner, turn off the television, come here and take a bath. We're telling them what to do. In fact, we're probably the bossiest people our children know. We're always trying to boss them around. So let's think that through. We usually use too many words. We usually speak from an adult perspective. And we usually think that whatever it is that we have to say is far more important than whatever they have to say. So we have to practice listening more and speaking less. So what do we want to do with this? We want to choose the right time. We don't want to choose a time when we're having an argument. We don't want to choose the time to try to get our kids to listen to it when we want them to really do something. We want to choose a time when we're all calm. Maybe after we finish reading a book. Maybe after dinner, when the kids, and neither the kids nor you are too hungry or too tired to engage in some conversation. So you want to be able to talk to them at a quiet time, family time. And you want to have enough time, a block of time, so that you can have that so-called quality time with your child, having a conversation, listening more. And when I say listen more, I'm not saying ignore them. I'm not saying be on your phone while you're listening to your child speak. I'm saying eye contact. Look at the child and respond to the child. Uh-huh. Okay. Wow. Really? Huh. I didn't know that. Wow. So you're responding, you're encouraging the child, and you're not changing the child's train of thought. So practice how you do that. You're not going to get it right the first time, but practice, because it really is a skill for you, the parents, to develop in getting your children to talk more. Expect this to be ongoing. And wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? If you and your child could both develop the skill to have conversations with each other. And if you don't think it's important now, just wait till they become teenagers and you realize how really important it is to be able to have a conversation with your child. So we want to, before we start, we want to find out what the child already knows. We want to find out what the child has heard, what the child needs to know. And more than anything, we don't want to put scary thoughts into the child's head. We want to keep on the child's topic and still offer honesty and reassurance with honesty at all times. So we're going to ask first, so what did you hear about this? You know, have you heard anything on your tablet or whatever? Have you heard anything from your friends about this? Tell me what you know. And that's the jumping off part. Find out first what the child knows, because pretty much they'll tell you what they need to know in doing that. So always be age appropriate. Always know your child. I can't say this enough. Know your child, because you know if your child is more mature or less mature than other children. You know if your child gets more easily frightened or less easily frightened than other children. You know if your child is more verbal or less verbal. Know your child. And will always be a help if you know your child. And we think we know your child, but children change day to day. You know your 3-year-old, but I guarantee you, once that child evolves into a 4-year-old, you're not going to know them so well. So it's always a process of getting to know that child. Okay, I'm assuming we don't have any questions on this. We'll just keep going. And this is where we should be. Feelings. We need to talk about feelings, because when we talk about feelings, we're really talking about emotional literacy. We're talking about social emotional development, which is the ability to express yourself, know yourself, have friends, be a friend. This is all tied up with feelings. And this time of the corona pandemic, when we're all stuck in our homes, what better time to talk about feelings? Because I think you're going to have some positive feelings, of course, but I think you're going to have some negative feelings turning up as well. Why can't I go out? I want to go out. You can't stop me from going out. And I know some parents of teens right now, and that's true. You can't stop the teen from going out. All you can do is make the teenager keep safe when they go out. So we want to encourage the child to talk about feelings. We want to practice accepting those feelings and not trying to fix them. How often do we fix a sad feeling. How often does a child say, I feel terrible, or I feel bad, or I'm unhappy, or you know that the child is feeling this, and we say, oh, I'll fix it. Let's do something happy right now. And there's nothing wrong with that, except when you minimize and diminish a child's fears, when you deny the reality that for this child, at this moment, this is a terrible feeling. This is how I feel. May not be the right way to feel, but this is how I feel. And by minimizing and dismissing, by denying those feelings, we're doing a not good thing. This is not a good thing, because feelings do not go away. And sometimes feelings don't even have the ability to be articulated. And you have to sense, what is my kid feeling right now? How can I deal with this feeling? Boy, you look really sad today. Look at that face. Your mouth is turned down. There are little tears coming out of your eyes. I can tell you feel really sad today. How do we do that? How do we not want to make it better? How do we not want to make those scary feelings go away? But minimizing, dismissing, and denying those feelings is never a good idea. Why? Because these feelings can mutate into something else. Usually, they mutate into fighting, maybe with siblings. Maybe just anger coming out and beating on their toys. I knew a kid who had to break every one of his toys when he was angry because his mother kept telling him, you're not angry, you have nothing to be angry over, and the toys were demolished. The feelings come out other ways. It can come out with even more oppositional behavior to what you want them to do. It can come out in tantrums and meltdowns. I'm just going to make a little distinction in my mind between a tantrum and a meltdown. A tantrum is behavioral. Usually a tantrum is to get something a child wants or to avoid something you want for the child. A meltdown is different. A meltdown comes with sensory overload. Too much, overwhelming. I can't handle it. I can't handle it. Save me from this emotional overload. And that's a meltdown. Okay? Again, I say, know your child. Know when it's a behavioral tantrum. Know when it's a meltdown because of sensory overload. You handle them different. We don't have time to get into that. Maybe another time. All right. Bad feelings, sad feelings, scary feelings don't go away just because you want them to. They don't go away just because the child wants them to. Just because the child thinks that you'll be happier if he or she make these scary feelings go away. It doesn't happen that way. We have to learn to accept our children's feelings without necessarily agreeing with them and without trying to change them. Now, let's go to number 3. Egocentricity and magical thinking. Oh my goodness. You need to think about this when a child is feeling sad or a child is feeling bad. Because egocentricity means it's all about me. It's got to be all about me because I'm the most important person I know. So it's got to be all about me. Magical thinking, which usually is between the ages of 4 and 7, but that's loosely 2 and 7. Magical thinking is when I say something like, I hate my teacher and I never want to see her again. And then the school's closed and it's my fault. My fault. I did that because I didn't want to see my teacher again. Magical thinking. Is there anything wrong with magical thinking? No, it's child thinking. It's how a child thinks. Is it lying? No, it's not lying. It's magical, egocentric thinking. And this is what your child may be going through. And your child on some level may be thinking, this is all my fault. It's because I'm a bad kid. It's because I didn't listen to mom. It's because I didn't do what daddy wanted me to do. It's because I was angry at the teacher. It's all my fault. And that's not what we want children to feel. We want to agree versus agreeing versus listening. Except, because when we listen to a child, when we can accept what a child says, as I said a minute ago, it's not agreeing with a child. It's not agreeing. When you're a teenager, and I'll just delve into teenage, when your teenager says, I hate you, I wish you weren't my mother. And unfortunately, teens have a tendency to say that for a lot of different reasons. Do you want to argue with them? I mean, really, do you want to argue with them? Do you want to argue with your 3 or 4 or 6-year-old who's telling you things that you feel are not true? That you really should get into that child's head and give them some balance, some perspective. Well, that's not the time. When your child is sharing with you, when your child is having that kind of emotional expression and just needs you to listen to all these feelings, that's not the time to argue. You don't have to argue with a child. You can take mental notes and say, okay, this child has these feelings about grandma and thinks that grandma is not calling her because she told grandma that she was angry at whatever. That's in the moment, is not the time to address it. Make a mental note and address it at one of those calm, reflective times that you will have with your child. It's okay to be frightened. You got to tell your child, it's okay to be frightened. A lot of people are frightened. Everybody gets frightened sometimes, and there are a lot of people frightened now because we don't know that much about this virus. So a lot of people are frightened. This is a natural, it's a normal feeling. And again, as I said before, help them to tolerate this feeling. But don't make it the focus of all your interactions. Okay, your child is afraid. Your child is easily frightened. Your child is insecure. Let it go. Oh, I'm jumping ahead. We'll let it go later. Don't dwell on this. Don't let it be the focus of everything you say to your child, because then you're perpetuating it. When you say to a child, oh, I can't tell him this because it's going to scare him. Oh, I have to be very gentle and kind. I have to let him get away with everything because he's really scared right now. It's not the focus. Your child is still your child. Remember what I said before. Know your child. Your child has frightening moments, has fearful moments, has angry moments. This is all part of your child. Children, human beings, are multifaceted creatures. We share all these feelings. And for a child, having conflicting feelings at one time is incredibly difficult to deal with. You can help. You can help. Deal with those scary feelings rather than try to avoid them. Gently, tenderly, with understanding. I would ask if anybody has questions here, but we're going to keep going. Blaming. I don't know about you, but I hear a lot of blaming when I turn the television on. This is blaming. It's nobody's fault. It's always everybody else's fault. And this is something we really have to be really, really careful about with our kids, because I see more and more children, older children, unable to take responsibility for anything. I see in a school a child lashing out at another child. And when you ask, why did you do that? The child saying, he made me. Did you see that face he made? He talked to me when I didn't want him to. He didn't give me that toy. So it's his fault I hit him. We got to stop this, because we're raising a generation that cannot take responsibility. So let's start giving them a little responsibility. Teach them to be responsible. Teach them to not hear you blaming other people. It happened. It happened. We have a COVID-19 pandemic out there. It's terrible. There's no way to say it's a good thing. It's a terrible thing. It happened. We can look at the facts, try to find out what the actual facts are. And the facts are usually, and I'm not saying this, I can't prophesize, and I can't tell you what is going to be found out, but more likely than not, it was nobody's fault. It was no one country's fault. It was something that happened. So let's deal with the situation rather than blaming someone. It's better to teach responsibility on being safe, on how your child can be safe at home, be safe when we start re-entering society, be safe when they start seeing other friends, be safe when you go on your next play date, which you haven't planned yet because it's not there yet. And differentiate between what you can do at home to stay safe and what you cannot do. For example, you can wear a mask, you can wash your hands, but you can't make other people wear a mask. You can't make other people keep safe distancing. So take responsibility and help your child take responsibility for keeping themselves safe and not blaming other people for what they do. Okay, now we go on to what everybody wants to know. How do I discipline my child? And how do I punish my child because he's driving me crazy? She is pushing my limits to the way that she's never pushed them before, and I can't deal with it. Well, good news and the bad news. Discipline is how we teach our children what we expect of them. And that's always a good thing. It's always a good thing to be teaching our children what we expect of them. But punishment, coming down hard on things that you normally would, taking away privileges, not a good time. Not now. It's just not a good time. There are other things that are more important. These are extraordinary times. They're unprecedented times. What has worked for us, for our children, in the past may not work or may not work as well right now. Do you really want to have these battles? You are all confined within the four walls of your home. Is this the time to engage in these battles? Is this the time to call your child out on every misbehavior? When your child is feeling particularly vulnerable, when you're both feeling vulnerable and uncertain? I don't think so. No, it's far better to ignore some of these things that are going on in your house. Ignore them. It's not the end of the world. Ignore them. Or even better, give permission. Okay, now normally, you know you're not allowed to jump on the sofa, but let's do it today. Let us do it, jumping on the sofa day, because you know he's going to jump on it anyway. So give permission in advance. So what do we need for our children right now? We need empathy. We need compassion. We need patience. And we need understanding. Do we all have these? No, we don't. Why? Because we're human beings and we don't normally engage with empathy and compassion and patience and understanding. Usually, we're more interested in accomplishing something. Usually, we're more interested in our own agendas. This is the time of Corona. It is a different time. Let us take this time to develop more empathy, more compassion, more patience, and more understanding, not just for our child, but for ourselves and for everyone in our household. Let us practice these things that will make life better, more rewarding, both for the short term and the long term. Number 4, learn to let it go. This is Elsa's words, right? Am I got this right? These are Elsa's words. Let it go. Is that easy? No. I might as well be saying, by tomorrow morning, I want you to have learned a new foreign language, and we're going to speak only in that language. That's how difficult it is. So I know that what I'm saying, what I'm suggesting to you right now, let it go, is hard. It's very hard. You may want to do it. You may try to do it, but you won't, because it's too deeply ingrained in us. So I say to you, this is a process. It has a beginning and it continues. So begin the process of learning. Notice I put the word learning up there. I don't say let it go. I say learn. Start learning to let it go. So how do we start? Take a few deep breaths. Take a few deep breaths right now. Right now. Take a deep breath. Feel your muscles relax a little. Feel your shoulders come down a little. Be mindful. Don't do things just because they've been done before, because this is your practice, your habit, the way you've always done things. Be mindful. Practice being self-aware. You know, we don't have time for this in our usual life, but this is not our usual life. We do. have time for this. We can make time for this right now in our daily lives. Understand that you and your child and everyone else that you're dealing with, we're all works in progress. We're not there yet, none of us. We're not there with enough empathy, not enough compassion, not enough patience, not enough understanding, not enough kindness, and not enough love. We are works in progress. My grandmother used to say, this too will pass. Think, is it really that important right now? What else could I do? How else could I handle this? The challenge is to appreciate this special time, to get closer as a family, to find new ways of being together, to learn new things about your child, about yourself. Because if you're not learning from your child, think about it. You're doing something wrong. I'm sorry. Your child has as much to teach you as you have to teach that child. Work on your relationships. That's what the child really is good at teaching you, working on a relationship. See new ways to appreciate your child. That child that is, I don't like to use the word hyperactive, but let's just say high, super high energy, here and there and everywhere. It drives us crazy because we can't keep up with that child. See new ways to appreciate that child. Oh, he's got so much energy. Oh, he's going to be terrific. He's full of energy. He's full of the ability to take charge, to do things. These are leadership qualities. Let's look at it that way. Discover new depths to your own patience, to your own compassion, to your own understanding. And most of all, take care of yourself. Please, people, take care of yourself. Respect yourself. Respect your need to be cared for. Take your own timeouts. You need a timeout, take it. Try your deep breathing. Try systematic relaxation. If you don't know what it is, look it up. Systematic relaxation. Relaxing first your toes, and then your ankles, then working all the way up your body with deep breaths. Systematic relaxation so that you can present yourself as a better parent to your child and a better person to yourself. Stretching exercises. Oh, we can all do some nice stretching exercises. And better yet, best of all, do these with your child because your child needs them just as much as you do. And like my grandmother would say, this time of pandemic, this time of COVID-19, this too shall pass.